Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that promises that's pie all over our face. It's SiftPop. I promise it's pie. Welcome to SiftPop Weekly, streaming live most weekends or available to download later in your podcast feed, unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks!
Patrons get those perks.
Woo!
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he accepted my friend request. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Andrew Ormsby.
Ahoy!
Each week we'll chat about movies, television, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. Welcome to SiftPop Weekly live on your video feed if you're watching live video, or in your audio feed if you're a subscriber to the podcast. Either way, thank you for joining us once again. My understanding is on the video side of things, I might be a little pixelated today. I apologize if that's the case. An evening recording, who knows what's going on in my house. My kids, they've got the internet probably doing something with it, and it's really causing problems. I really think at the end of the day, kids are the issue here. Never have kids. I think that's the lesson that we all should learn from this one. How you doing,
Aaron,
man?
I've been telling you for years. No, I'm doing good.
I was
real good.
I was way done having kids by the time we met. So yeah, I unfortunately didn't get that memo soon enough.
That's fine. No, I'm doing good. Apologies for doing this broadcast on a Monday instead of our normal time on Sunday. My computer decided, nope, we need to be new and improved right now, whether you want to or not. So
those
my computer
Windows
was
updates,
stuck in
man.
out. Yeah,
they'll get you every
and this
time.
was a big one. Yeah. So I got to go in my settings and try and see if there's like a scheduled time that it has, and make it not whenever we're broadcasting.
That's true. That's a good point. Usually we do this Sunday afternoons at 1:30 Central Time if you want to tune into the live show. And today we're doing it on a Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Time. So maybe people watching right now that don't usually get to watch on a Sunday afternoon. You never know. So welcome. We appreciate you having you here. So thank you for that. We've got a fun show. Fun show. Just a very uplifting movies this week that we're going to be talking about. Devil All the Time and Social Dilemma, both on Netflix, came out within the last couple weeks. And we want to touch base on those a little bit. Of course, we've got the buried treasure at the end. We've got an interesting best ever challenge this week on Tom Holland movies. There's a few there to choose from. I think we can each come up with a top 5, but it's not like he's been making movies forever. So that'll be a fun one to do. But we're gonna kick it off with a I almost said we're gonna kick it off with some Do We Care, and then Andrew would freak out and be like, "What? What? There's no Do We Care."
Yeah.
Although the Emmys were
Every
last
single
night.
week, I scare the.
The Emmys were last night, and Jay says, "What did you guys think of the Emmys last night?" Honestly, I did not watch, so I
Yeah.
don't have any like opinions on the broadcast. I know they did things a little bit differently. I did see that Schitt's Creek won a ton of stuff, which I think is really cool because that show is hilarious. That's one that I did see. I also saw Zendaya won an Emmy last night, which is kind of cool. So yeah, some cool stuff going on that I at least heard about, but yeah, I didn't really pay close attention to what was going on with the Emmys last night. So what did you see? Did you see anything that I didn't mention, Andrew?
I did not know the Emmys were last night.
Yeah, that is
So-
that's how crazy this weekend has been. It definitely has
Yeah.
been that. You
So
ready to get into it then?
whoops. Yeah.
All right, let's kick it off with a review of The Devil All the Time. A young man is devoted to protecting his loved ones in a town full of corruption and sinister characters. Technically, I think that should say two towns full of corruption and sinister
Yeah.
characters. Recently out on Netflix, stars a lot of people you're going to know. Tom Holland's in there. Robert Pattinson's in there. Lots of others as well that we can go through as we kind of talk
Bill
about this.
Skarsgård.
Yeah. Some interesting people and I guess interesting movie, but let's talk about it. What did you think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
I'm gonna go low side of liked it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm just going to go on the I think I'm going to go ahead and push the needle just slightly to the high side of it was okay. It's
Yeah.
hard for me to say I
We're
liked this
right-
movie. So
We're really close to each other.
yeah, tell me some of your thoughts. What are some of your thoughts?
Man, this movie loves exhibition. Like from beginning to end, this entire movie just feels like it's exhibition for a
Yeah.
story that never happened. It's like
Yeah.
we got to get through this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Okay, now we can get to the movie. Oh wait, credits.
Are you talking exposition? Because you said exhibition, which it also loves exhibition, but exposition, it's all narration.
That's what I meant. I meant
and-
exposition. Exposition.
Well, it's interesting. And I wouldn't even brought it up except for the fact that like exhibition, it's also like it has this way of like here, let me show you graphically these things that I want to show you. You know, it's very
Yeah.
much that kind of movie as well. So that didn't necessarily seem out of place to me. So I wanted to clarify. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is a movie that is, you can tell, is very much in love with the book that it was based on. I'm guessing, now I haven't read the book, but I'm guessing a lot of that exposition, a lot of that narration comes from the beautiful way this book was worded. And I will say that for the narration. It is very beautiful. It's very poetic, very interesting. But yeah, I totally agree that this, as a movie, feels overly narrated. And that's always a sticking point for me. So
Yeah,
what
there's
else?
even points like literally it's narrated. There is a narrator for the movie, but there's parts of the movie where somebody will say, "Oh boy," and then you'll hear the narrator go, "He said," and I'm like, "I don't need you. I don't
I
need
just
you to
watched
tell
him
me."
say it.
Yeah, I watched him say that. You know.
Yeah.
I think the movie is trying to do kind of something you would see in a spiderweb, movie like
Yes.
like Crash or what's Magnolia or any of those where it's like this affected this and this affected this, but there aren't enough of those, coincidental moments to make it feel necessary. Like towards the beginning of this movie there's a bunch and I'm like, oh okay, but they don't really impact what I think the meat and potatoes of the movie or the chicken liver and potatoes of this movie is. And I'm like, okay, it's fun to know all that stuff in the beginning, but it doesn't really emphasize or increase my enjoyment of like the main story that I'm watching. It doesn't do anything.
It is interesting to talk about the connecting points in this one. I think you are right, and yet at the same time, I almost appreciated it. And I'll try to explain a little bit. You are correct that there aren't as many connecting points as you might see in a movie like Crash. There aren't as many random occurrences where people cross paths and you're like, oh, that person's this connection to that person and that kind of thing. But the difference with this one is that the connecting points almost seem more realistic. They almost like the story has a way of you understanding the relationship to these characters, the intricate way that they find themselves involved in each other's life in a way that seems more accurate to me. It feels more like an actual story than a lot of those movies do. And because of that, didn't feel quite as forced to me. So it was a connecting point movie that felt more legitimate. I think because it was scaled down, like you're talking about. So I think you're seeing like the negative points of scaling it down that way. And maybe I see more of the positive points of scaling it down. The movie's problems for me didn't have to do with misusing the connecting points. It had more to do with misusing its theme, with misusing, kind of what it was trying to say. That stuff didn't land for me quite a bit, but I actually kind of liked the way it introduced its characters and then brought them back to us. I thought that actually worked okay. Anything else you wanted to mention? Oh, I've lost Andrew's audio. Is that on my end or everybody's end? Andrew all of a sudden seems muted to me. We'll see if we can get Andrew's audio back, or maybe it's just me. Audio's gone on Andrew. Okay. Well, fair enough.
Is that better?
We'll cut this. Yeah, there you go. Now you're back.
Yeah, my headphones died, and I think that because like
Nice.
as soon as I got done talking and you started, I was like, okay, and then boop, and I'm like, oh no. Hopefully the whole screen was on you because I was scrambling, looking around like,
Panicking. Yeah.
How do I fix this?
Yeah.
How do I fix this? So
Well, we're glad you're back.
Yeah,
we'll cut this whole part out of the audio podcast. This is the beauty of
I just
watching
lost
live.
you again.
You get to. Well, I can still hear you this time. At
Here,
least.
let me try something.
All right. Andrew's gonna get new headphones to set up. While we're doing on that, I can take a look at the chat. Let's see. Jay says, I think this was just too big a project for Antonio Campos. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting when you kind of get somebody doing something new at the time, and so yeah, it's one of those things where I'm not sure if it was too big of a project, but it was definitely a different project for him, although it feels a lot like his movies. Edmund says, I wanted The Good Place to win. We're talking about the Emmys now. For some writing, directing, and DRC Carden. Totally get that. Good Place is an amazing show. So I get that sometimes the ones you want to win don't necessarily win. Andrew, are you back?
I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Jay Bourgeois says, this movie rides the narration train hard. Drove me batty, pun not intended. I get it. But I'm okay with it. Solidly in okay camp. So, yeah. I've just been reading some comments while you're getting your new setup going on. You ready to get back into it?
Yeah, when Bluetooth fails, coaxial will always save
That's right.
the day, I guess.
Just plug something in. Why don't we pick it up here, Phil? Andrew, anything else you wanted to mention before I kind of go into some of my stuff? Anything else that stood out to you?
I do want to say I think the performances all around are good. They're not great. I think that like English actors in this movie, like Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland, are really leaning into a cliched, over,
Yes.
ridiculous Appalachian,
Yes.
kind of
Stereotypes,
accent.
man. Yes.
Yeah.
It might be my least favorite thing about the movie is how stereotyped. And again, we live in the Ozarks, right? And it's just, I know people like that exist. Certainly during that time, people like that existed, but it's really laid on thick. And it got to be a little bit caricature instead of character at times. So yeah, I really didn't like that.
Tom Holland's trying to do Sling Blade, and it's weird.
Yeah. And I thought Pattinson was fine. I thought it was performance-wise, he's always great. But I just think he buttered it on too thick. I just think it just didn't work for me. So yeah, I totally agree with that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, get into whatever you felt about it.
I think this is one of those movies that is going to for me, be difficult to find myself investing in simply because it is such a movie about the basest base part of the human experience. What I mean by that, and without spoiling anything, I don't think we need to do a SIF spoil on this because really
Nah.
a SIF spoil would just be listing all the horrible ways this movie interacts with itself. When I say horrible, I don't necessarily mean the process of interacting with itself. I mean the actual things that are happening on the screen. You know, murders that are happening, suicides, other things. Just honestly, the darkest parts of humanity are on full display here. And that's a difficult one for me. I'm not saying it's not necessary sometimes, and I'm not saying it can't lead to an exploration of important thematic things that we need to think about, that we need to talk about, that we need to understand. But this movie didn't, and probably this book, didn't really seem interested in living above those things. It seemed interested in living inside those things. And that's tough for me and not necessary for me, at least in this experience. So I had a rough experience with it just because I'm like, really? Do we have to do this too? Did this character have to end up this way? It's just like, and at the end of the movie, I think it's trying to give us some hope. Like I do think there's at the end, it's like, you know, I guess success, good, something happens, and you're like, okay. But it's still just the darkest form of that, the darkest version of that you can imagine. And man, it's just not where I want to live for over 2 hours and 20 minutes or however long this movie is.
No, not at all.
It's so that to me makes it difficult to say, yay, I like this movie.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think it is well crafted. I really do. I think there's some really well done things here with the way this story relates to itself. One of the things that sounded to me like it was a negative for you, the underuse of the interconnectedness of the characters, I really think was kind of the main positive for me. I really thought the story was told well. I never felt lost. I never felt confused. I knew who related to who and how they did. And when the information was revealed about a new connection, it made sense to me. And so I felt like the story took me on a cohesive ride. It just wasn't a ride I enjoyed. So so for me, that's kind of the experience I had. And so that's why I kind of land just barely on the high side of it was just okay, is just to recognize that there's some excellence in the craft here. It's just not a movie I could recommend because I just didn't enjoy it. I just didn't have a good time with it. So
yeah, I'm right there with you. There's the way this movie interacts with itself, going back to this whole Spiderweb, Crash, Magnolia kind of style. It did it enough to where I felt that's the kind of movie it wanted to be, but it didn't do it enough to where I felt like, okay, you're not committing to this type of storytelling. You're kind of dipping your toe in it, and it's, I don't want to say annoying, but it feels hacky, I guess. Like, oh, look who just walked by who. I'm sure that's going to come up later, you know. But if you look at movies like Crash, which I really love, and I know a lot of people don't, but those interactions mean something. Those walking by somebody who affects them later on in life, it means something. This movie just has coincidental interactions for the sake of coincidental interactions. I mean, there's a few in here that are, meaningful, and like they lead to something later on. But a couple of them are like, if I didn't know this, my experience in the movie would not have changed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think
that was mainly my main issue with that.
Yeah, I think we may just come down on opposite sides of that. Because I think I understand what you're saying is that there isn't enough to the connections for them to be like a really cool moment for you, or not even just that, but what I hear you saying is it didn't mean anything that they connected in this way.
Yeah.
It didn't have an impact on their stories beyond just this was part of both of their stories. And I think I understand what you're saying. And again, think maybe that's why I liked it a little bit more, is because that felt more authentic to me. That felt more real. The interactions we have with people, aren't, as much as in Crash, which I don't enjoy like you do, which is fine.
Yeah.
Everybody
No,
has their movies.
hey, you're in the majority on that. Even though the movie won Best Picture, you're in the majority on that.
The stuff in Crash feels so forced to me. It just feels like, yes, those things could be powerful, but they just feel so manufactured. That's the word I'm looking for. Everything in a movie like Crash feels very manufactured. In this movie, I didn't feel things were manufactured. I felt like they were just connected. But again, we can just agree to disagree on that part of it. Who would you say was the best performance in this movie?
I guess Robert Pattinson.
What did you think of Jason Clarke's performance?
It was fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
he was one tone the entire movie. Like, he knew what his character was, and there were no layers to it. It was just, I'm bad, and
yeah.
Actually, who played his wife?
You can look that up, but
name.
you're touching on exactly what I wanted to touch on, which is that I came out of this movie not knowing who I thought the best performance was, because all the performances in this are so right there, one note, stereotypical. And if for a movie that actually I thought was crafted fairly well, it surprised me that when I looked back, I wasn't like, oh yeah, that one performance really stood out above the rest. And the way you describe Jason Clarke performance is kind of how I would describe almost everybody's performance in this movie. It just feels very one note. There's not a lot of texture to it. There's not a lot of nuance to it. There's, the very basic ideas of nuance, which is that even bad characters have something good about them, although really not that much in this one.
Yeah, I think Riley Q, who plays his wife, I think that she was the most layered character, even though I saw 2 layers.
Yeah, exactly.
But hey, yeah, that's more than what I got from everybody else. And I don't know if it's performances or just they're limited by what the script gives them,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's like I don't want to say that they were phoning it in, because there's a scene with Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland that's gripping. You're fascinated and you're locked into what's going on. But since we only see one side of these characters, it's not like we're having a moral dilemmas or anything like that. We're just like, okay, what happens here? And I know what's going to happen here. Yeah, let's move on.
Speaking of let's move on.
Hey!
I would say that there is I would not recommend this to most people. There are some discerning people that I would say, hey, maybe you want to check this out. The more I talk about it, the more I kind of lean even closer to the low side of it was okay. This is not one I'm ever going to revisit. And it's hard for me to really find those places. And what's hilarious is the only thing I really liked, which is the way it interconnects these characters, is something you didn't like. So even the thing I liked is, possibly not going to work for everybody. So, I would not recommend this movie.
I'll throw out one last pro before we move on. And that's that I think that this movie does a really good job of making this world, the actual world that they live in, seem real and authentic.
Yeah.
Like, I think the set design, I think that, what do you call it? The costuming, I think that all that was really well done. It made the era of when this took place seem legitimate. It looked like it was the early 1960s or 50s leading into the 60s, really.
Yes.
Because this movie does span over a course of time.
I 100% agree. I think that's what I was trying to say when I was talking about the craft of the movie. The craft of the movie just feels really well done and well made. And I think that's well worth pointing out. The only thing I didn't really talk about that I guess I will just briefly before we move on, it'll be my one last thing, is the way this movie interacts with religion is fascinating to me, and in general is something that will always catch my eye when I'm watching movies, catch my ear. But the way it deals with themes about pleasing God, the idea of sacrifice, the idea of prayer, all these things are interlaid into this cynical look at how humans do religion that honestly, I don't know that I can disagree. It's not like it offended me. It's just, it's one of those things again about this movie that's so dark and cynical. And you just go, not everybody treats the mystery of God and religion in this way. And that's another part of kind of the one note Pattinson character that's like, yeah, I get it. The preacher who has sexual hangups. Yeah, I haven't seen that before ever, and I know it comes from a real place, and I'm not trying to say it doesn't. I'm just saying this movie liked to revel in those stereotypes in a way that just, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it worked.
Yeah,
so that was the religious aspect is worth mentioning too, I think.
Yeah, there are moments where you see people using religion as a crutch for why they don't want to move on or do things. People using religion
or in
as
doing
a weapon.
Horrible things. Yeah, exactly.
Using it as a weapon. I think that you're right. If there's one like big pro to take away from this movie, it's seeing how different people use religion in a different way.
Yeah. All right, let's move on, shall we? We're going to talk a little bit about a documentary on Netflix. It's called The Social Dilemma. Tech experts sound the alarm on the dangerous human impact of social networking. This is a straight-up documentary that Netflix has released recently, and it takes a look at the different social networks, how they are programmed, how they impact us. I'm really curious, Andrew. What'd you think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay?
I'll go with I really liked it.
Nice.
I really liked it. Yeah. You?
I loved this movie. Loved this movie. It is competing for my favorite movie of the year.
Interesting.
This is, and maybe it just hit me at the right time, at the right place. This is a movie that says things about the way we interact with our phones that are not news. It's not news to me, a lot of what this movie is saying.
See,
I knew a lot of this.
That's why I didn't go straight into love it. I'm like, we've been saying this forever, and now we just have Silicon Valley backing up everything we've been saying. Right.
So I knew a lot of this stuff before, and yet the way this was presented, for some reason, broke through my weird, stubborn defenses enough to go, hey, maybe take a look at yourself. Maybe take a look at how you interact with your notifications, how you interact with the way your phone uses you. And I came out of it really changed by this documentary in a way to say, look, my phone is the tool. I am not the tool. my phone is the thing I'm supposed to be using to accomplish things, and why am I letting it use me? Why am I letting my phone change my behavior, make me do certain things, give me a dopamine hit so that I'll investigate an app or all those kind of things. Again, I know this. I've heard it before, but for whatever reason, seeing it in this movie really brought it home to me. And I really believe it's because it is so well constructed. The narrative of this documentary, just coming straight from all these Silicon Valley types who have invented different parts of what we know of how our social media works. The way these interviews are interlaid together in the process of learning how it happens and why it happens and all of this stuff is really well done. I think this is supremely constructed documentary work, and I think that's part of the reason it worked so well on me in communicating a message to me. It's changed the way I interact with my phone. I completely shut off my notifications except for my text messages, and I've survived that for the day or two that I've done that, and it's you can do it, and it's one of those things that I have enjoyed, not being tied to, oh, there's another email, let me deal with this now. Now I just go to my email like I used to every once in a while on my laptop, and I take care of my emails. So man, it really impacted the way I'm living. So this one is one of those that I go, yeah, I think that's a really well-made movie, but I'm probably even rating it higher because it meant so much to me personally. And we'll see how that lasts, or how that is affecting lasting change. But for now, it's really impacted the way I live my life. So that's a big deal.
And that's what that's what the purpose of the documentary is to shine a light. And like we've said, or you've said mainly, is this is things that we've already known, but just hearing it out loud and spoken to us in such a way hits and impacts us just that much more to make us take it that much more seriously. I think that the big thing that you and I are going to disagree on, just based solely on what I heard from you, is the narrative of this documentary. And I think for me, it's kind of a con, but it's there's the literal stories being told about the family and how they interact with social media and stuff like that, and and then there's there's visualizations of the AI played by the Madman dude, inside the computer or the phone,
Yep.
Pinging and making this kid pick up his phone all the time. That for me was a little too much, in the sense that everything that the person or from Silicon Valley, the tech I'm just going to call them tech giants.
Sure.
Every single time that the tech giant would explain something, we had to have this repeated to us by a visualization of going on within the the story arc. And for me personally, it felt like you're just repeating every single thing that the person just said. I personally don't need to have a visual aid with what you're telling me. If anything, you don't have to show me these tech giants talking all the time. If you want to tell me this narrative story, then either make a movie or have the tech giants talk over what is going on in this narrative, as opposed to having the tech giant go and then the story just repeating or acting out exactly what they just said. I felt like, man, this documentary could have been shorter, and I would have gotten literally the same amount of information if you just cut out the story arc. I'm not saying that it was badly acted or anything. I mean, it's not going to win any Oscars for acting, but it just felt unnecessary, if that makes sense.
I do disagree with that. I will say of the two things you mentioned, you're right. This movie does two separate cutaway emphasis themes. One is here's what's going on inside your phone, and here's a visual representation of the algorithms your phone uses to make sure that you aren't disconnected from it, and that it can get advertising out of you, through these social networks. That's one. The other was a family that was dealing with, stuff with
tech addiction. Did I lose you? Phil, just so I know, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. We lost Aaron's audio just for a second, so we might just have to camp for until he's able to get up the night for phones apparently.
No, it's not.
Am I back?
Hey, now you're back.
Yes.
Am I back? Okay.
From outer space.
Look at what you get with the live show, huh? You get all the fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up my thought where I was. I'm not sure what happened there. I think my soundboard turned off, but it's really strange. So I'm going to check and make sure I'm still recording for you, Phil. Just make sure that's still going on.
Mic check one, mic check one.
It does not appear that...
no.
You're not recording?
No, it froze. Mine stopped recording 14 minutes in.
Wow.
What a fun time.
What a fun time. Technical difficulties all around.
I guess
Well,
we
here's
can
the good
only use
news.
the audio from this YouTube live stream.
Correct. We've got the audio on the live stream. I've got your audio over here, although mine has stopped recording too. So I'm gonna try to restart that and see. So Phil, you're gonna have a lot of fun piecing stuff together this week.
Yeah. So did you start yours?
I'm not sure where mine stopped. It looks like I have about 46 minutes, so I must have stopped very recently. It probably stopped when I lost the soundboard, which
Yeah.
again, I don't know how that happened. So, yeah, it's you know what it is. You know what it is. We are on all the social networks right now. They know what we're talking about.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and they're trying to shut us
And
down.
Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Twitch, they're all like, no, you can't talk about how bad we are. You're not allowed to do that. Let me see if I can get us started back up recording on my end because let's see. Because that is not working yet. And then we will get back with you. Nope, not yet. Why you say not working? Mm-hmm. 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 No. No. Yes, no. Maybe so. Check 1 2, test 1 2. Okay, Phil, I can't get mine to start recording, so I apologize. You may have to use the whatever's coming through the show audio for this show and just edit off of that.
Yeah, I can do that. Very occasionally, because of your upload speed, your audio will just kind of like glitch out or drop for like half a second. But if you're
Okay.
then we'll just do that.
All right, and then I'll send you what I have in case it helps, but it's not recording now, and considering we're on a live show, let's just keep going and we'll finish it up. Here's what I was saying. So you've got both the part of the show that's like inside your phone, and then you've got this family, right? That's going about their daily life, how it's interacting, with them, how they're doing things. I didn't need that as much as the stuff inside the phone. I thought was really good because it allowed me to visualize something I never actually visualized before. So that I really like that part of it. The reason I think the family part of it still does work though is because there's an emotional part of actually seeing a family go through this stuff that I don't think isn't as resonant in just interviews. Interviews are very dry, they're informational, they're still powerful, it still meant something, but when you bring the family into it and you kind of see it in front of you, there's a moment where he is kind of giving into these ads that are political in nature, and he ends up at a thing that's going on and
A rally,
and, a rally of some sort. That kind of stuff, I think, is allows for some emotion to be in there that wouldn't necessarily be in there otherwise. So yeah, I think they're both fine, but I like the inside the phone stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, if I had to choose one aspect of it that I did like over another, it would be that. So,
yeah. Any other thoughts?
have you dropped any social medias after watching this?
I am solely a Twitter person. I had already deleted my Facebook. We have a Facebook for SiftPop, but I had deleted my personal Facebook. I still had Instagram, I think, and Reddit maybe. But yeah, I just deleted all those apps so that they're not on my phone anymore. The only social app on my phone now is Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? Did it change the way you use your phone at all?
Not really, because I don't really have social media, but I do, it did remind me, it brought me back to whenever I originally quit YouTube, because, the pressure and anxiety of it all just got to me. it was because of things that they're talking about in this documentary, and they hit
Yeah.
on the mental health aspect of what social media and screen addiction can do to you and stuff. Because I
Yeah.
was making 2-3 videos a day, and checking my phone all the time to make sure I was up to date on everything. So if I needed to make a new video, then I could. And it just got to be way too much for me, and I let it go on way too long. And that's what happened to me. So I know what they're talking about in this documentary is real because it happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that as well. The other part of it, beyond the anxiety, beyond those kind of things that social media can impact, is how they would say over and over again, like, I don't think these people are bad people. I just think they've built something that brings out the worst in humanity. So basically, the idea is it benefits these networks to show you things that activate you. What activates you? Division activates you. Tribalism activates you. Political hatred activates you. And so, it continues to show you all of these things that activate those worst inklings of, our nature, and B, are all in the echo chamber of what we already believe. So we see things like, look at this fool believing something. You look at those kind of things. And I think that's very true. And I don't think it's an accident that the stats that they show that change right in the 2011, 2012 area when social media started becoming popular, and they just show the drastic ways that depression changed, anxiety changed, division, polarization in politics changed. You look at they show you this graph of how close people were on their views, and then it just kind of hovers there, and then in 2011 it just goes like this, and everybody kind of goes to the extremes, and it's just I don't think that's an accident. I really think that these processes are changing the way we see each other, and it's something, if nothing else, we need to be aware of so that we can consciously try to fight it. The movie also made a great point about how it's not impossible for you to use social media and do what you need to do with it. It just, you have to walk uphill. You have to put a lot of effort into, seeing what you want to see and hearing the things that you're actually interested in. And it just, most people aren't willing to put that effort into it. They're just going to see what's delivered to them. And I totally get it, but it has an impact. And so, man, yeah, it was a really powerful one for me. So I would highly recommend it. I actually think it should be required viewing. I think the government should just be like, everybody has to watch this or you're going to jail. I think that's how it works, right? Take away all freedoms and make sure people watch this documentary. No, I think
that's what I got out of it.
I would recommend it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. Before we move on to the best ever challenge for this week, a huge thank you to our members, our SiftPop members at Patreon. We appreciate you very much. That's patreon.com/SiftPop if you want to check it out. You may not know this listening to the podcast, but we've had mic issues and headphone issues. Who knows when we're going to have to, buy new equipment and figure stuff out, but we can do a lot of that stuff because of you. So thank you for that at patreon.com/SiftPop. It means a lot to us. If nothing else, that you like it enough just to throw a couple bucks a month our way, means the world to us. Thank you for doing that, especially during this time with everything that's going on. It's very humbling to know that you would do that. So appreciate it. If you're interested, check it out. It's patreon.com/SiftPop. All right, on to the best ever challenge, Andrew. We're going to take a look at the best ever Tom Holland movies. So we're going to go number 5 to number 1. And Andrew, I'm going to let you go first. What do you got at number 5?
Well, I know we have the exact same list, or this just probably not in the same order.
You think so?
Because there's not a lot of Tom Holland movies. He's a younger guy. I did have a question about one where he's just a voice.
Oh, yeah, I counted that one for sure.
I did too. Okay, because...
Yeah.
Okay. But I'll start off with a movie he actually is in and does play a really good role in. My number 5 is The Lost City of Z, or Zed, I guess.
So far, you are correct. We have the same number 5.
Yeah, this is a good movie.
Yeah, it
It
is.
didn't get enough praise or attention when it originally came out. I think that Tom Holland and Charlie Hunnam is just fascinating in this movie. His
Right? Yeah.
portrayal, you want to you want him to succeed, even if you know the story of him. You're like, please, I just believe in you because you everything is going against you. Sabotage. Oh, also another Robert Pattinson movie. Uh,
I was going to say, if you're going to watch a Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson movie, choose this one
this
instead
is
of
the one.
Devil All the
Yeah,
Time. This is the one.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is a good movie. The runtime, I can see how some people would feel the runtime to be a little daunting, but I when I initially watched it, I was just locked in, and I think it's great.
Yeah, it's a good watch. It's definitely a good watch. As my number 5 as well, and since we shared number 5, I guess I'll share my number 4 and
Hmm.
see if we still are matching. My number 4 is The Impossible. And this is one of Tom Holland's first.
Yeah,
Um,
I have it one higher, but we can go ahead. Yeah,
oh, okay. All right.
yeah.
Well, I guess according to the show, we should allow you to
Trump.
trump it. There you go. There you go. It has been trumped.
Yeah.
All right. What do you have at number 4?
Well, let's talk about the Impossible real quick, if you want,
Okay.
since I have.
Sure.
Yeah. Uh, this I think is the very first Tom Holland movie I ever saw. Um, I think that, and he was a breakout role for me when I saw this too.
Yeah.
It was him, Ewan McGregor, and I almost said Natalie Portman, but it's
Naomi Watts. Yeah.
Naomi Watts. Yeah. Um, whew, uh, he likes to do or movies about things that actually happened, and this is an incredibly powerful movie. One of the most powerful movies ever about the will of the human spirit and
Mm-hmm.
overcoming impossible odds. Honestly, yeah, because what happened with this family and how it all turned out for him is, I think, as close to impossible as you can get.
Yeah.
Um, Beautiful story, beautifully acted. Ewan McGregor and I think Naomi Watts just killed it in this movie. I think she should have got a nomination for this one. I think she was so good.
This is a really underseen and underrated movie, isn't it? I feel like
Yeah,
not enough people have seen The Impossible. It is so powerful and
yeah,
so in such an incredible reenactment of this tidal wave and just everything that happened with this family. By the way, based on a true story. And Tom
yeah.
Holland, it's
The
baby Tom
tsunami that hit
Holland. I,
Thailand, I think.
when Holland broke big, one of the first things I was like, man, I hope that that this
People go
brings more
back.
people to The Impossible because
Yeah,
it's such a really really good movie. So
it is.
yeah, I,
Oh,
I would I would
I
recommend The
bawled the
Impossible.
first time I saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's really
it's
good,
heavy,
really
heavy
good.
movie. So your number four, or that was my number three. So I guess my number four now.
You're number 4. Yep,
I'm gonna go with Onward.
and I guess I'll go ahead and trump you,
Okay.
and then we'll talk about it for my number 3. How's that?
Yep.
We just swapped The
Okay.
Impossible and
So
Onward.
we just have those. Okay. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
had really close to the same list because I think we have the same number two and number one.
I don't know if our
So,
number one's the same. By the way, I didn't mention that that
oh,
we
only one
we
Marvel movie.
only one Marvel movie from Tom Holland. I should have mentioned that
Yeah.
at the top. People are wondering like, why isn't it all Marvel? Well, I actually don't know that my list would be too much different, but yeah, we just said one Marvel movie.
I think I would take out. Yeah, maybe one. No, I don't know. I really don't
Well, we'll
think I
talk
would.
about it. We'll talk about it when we get to the
Yeah.
Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Onward is great. I love Pixar. This is not a surprise. All you
What?
have to do, if you know anything about me, you know that I am a Pixar fan, and loved this movie. I think he's perfect in this film, and I think Chris Pratt is perfect in this film. It's so much fun, and it's so beautiful, and it has such a great story turn at the end that I did not see coming, and that's so rare for me
No.
these days. And I loved that, and it's just such a beautiful film, and is certainly one of my favorites. So yeah, love Onward.
Yeah, I'm right there with you because there were parts of this where I personally, towards the end, was going, Oh, I did not see that coming, but it makes so much sense
Hmm.
because can we talk spoilers on Onward, or are we still
You can
like,
talk around them, I think. I mean, I don't care. Spoilers
yeah,
for Onward, if you need to go away for a couple
yeah,
seconds.
yeah. Whenever he doesn't meet him at the end of the movie, and that it's his
Hmm.
brother, because
Yeah.
that's who really needed to get to say goodbye.
Hmm.
That. Oh, that gets me every time, man.
Yeah.
And with every single Pixar movie, it's hilarious. It just
Hmm.
makes you giggle and laugh constantly. The
Yep.
the van galloping to its death is it's so
It's
perfect.
so
I
great.
loved it so much.
Yeah,
Or
it's great.
the dragon with the happy face was great.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Lots
it's
of great moments.
I don't think that I would put it up there with my most like emotionally impactful Disney movie or Pixar movies. I think that that's still reserved for movies like Wall-E or Finding Nemo or something like that. But it does fit perfectly into that, I guess you could say, the DNA of what makes a good Pixar movie,
Yeah.
It actually is funny, but the emotional story and what it's trying to tell you is really what you take away from it.
Yeah. Yep. I
Yeah.
agree.
Awesome.
All right. Number two, Andrew, what do you got?
Lock.
Yeah, that's what I've got at number two as well. It's great. Tom Holland is a voice, a very,
Yep.
very, very short part, but it counts. When you said one of yours was audio only, I was like, well, actually, technically, two of them are audio only because it's not
Oh,
like
because of
he
Onward.
shows up in Onward.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He's personified in Onward.
that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
I don't know
If
much
you
more
would have
needs to be
told
said
me,
about Locke, but it's great.
yeah, if you would have told me, when did this come out? 2010, 2011,
Hmm.
somewhere around there? If you would have told me back then that watching a movie that has Tom Hardy sitting in a car calling people would be one of the most gripping and fascinating movies I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, I've seen, movies that take place in one set location before.
Hmm.
My Dinner with Andre, or I don't know if you ever seen the Ryan Reynolds movie Buried
Yes, I
before.
have. I actually like that
Yeah,
movie. Yeah.
I do too. Or I think the big one that people remember is Phone Booth with Colin
Hmm.
Farrell.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting to have a centralized location where the movie starts here and it ends here and you never leave. It's just you have to have a good gripping story with an actor who understands what is being done here, because everything in this movie, it doesn't matter if Tom Holland gives a good performance or an okay performance, with his voice, or any other voice actors. It's on Tom Hardy to sell you those moments, because if he doesn't react emotionally to what Tom Holland is saying, then it's all for naught. It's all on him. You don't see a single other person in this movie besides Tom Hardy, and
Yeah.
it's one of the most well acted and fascinating movies I've ever seen.
It's good stuff. I echo all of that. And if you'd have told me 10 years ago that the little boy on the phone was going to be
Spider Man.
Spider-Man someday,
Yeah.
I'm sure I would have believed you because, of course, you would be a traveler from the future, and why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
All right, on to our
I'd
number
also tell
one.
you to delete your social media.
That's right.
Don't do it,
That's
Aaron.
right.
Yeah.
We're
Number
on to our
one.
number one. So this is where we have our Marvel selections, and you think we have the same one? What is it?
Infinity War.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah.
For some reason, I
think
thought maybe you liked Civil War better. I can't remember what it was. There was one I thought maybe you liked better than Infinity War.
I do really like Civil War, but I think Infinity War is the best Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Period. I think that Endgame is the biggest spectacle of any
Hmm.
Marvel movie. Like what's going on, like that final fight scene is like one of the coolest things in
Absolutely.
cinema history. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think that
Absolutely.
the emotional toll on a person, if it's going to come from anywhere in the MCU, it's going to be from Infinity War. Whether it be Gamora and Thanos on Vormir, or the Snap, obviously, or Thor arriving in Wakanda is still one of my favorite moments in cinema ever. You know,
Yeah.
it's just a great movie. It's so good. It's the best. It's the best Marvel movie.
I think it is the best overall film, and it is not a crowd pleaser at the end. You know, it is.
That's why it's
It, it,
great.
I know. I agree. Thematically, it all works, and it has real consequences. And yeah, I think it's
Ah!
one of the boldest. Listen, if you live in it, what do they live in it for? 5 years?
Yeah.
Is that right? 5 years? That's real consequences. You
I
know
think
what I
that
mean?
you
Like,
and I have had. I think you and I have had this conversation with Chris from your cohort at CinemaSins. How he was
yeah,
saying, well, we know that they're going to come back in Endgame. You know, it's not
sure.
like I'm emotionally taxed. I'm like, but that's not what matters. What matters is the characters don't know that
Right.
they're going to
That's
be
what I'm
coming
saying.
back in Endgame.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not like I am pondering with myself, like, oh my gosh, are they ever going to come back? No, no.
Right.
What's going on with the characters who survived? That's who I'm interested in now.
Right. That's where the empathy is. That's where you find your
Yeah.
emotion. You may know that Spider-Man's going to get undusted at some point. That's fine. I get it. You understand they're going to make more Spider-Man movies or whatever. But,
Yeah.
you know, Tony Stark having to process, you know, that
Oh, yeah.
he brought this kid in and held him as he turned to dust. Like, that's real. That's powerful stuff.
Yes.
I think it's incredible. I think Infinity War is the best of those movies, and so has to be my favorite Tom Holland Marvel movie as well. So
Yeah.
yeah. Did you have any honorable mentions? I know there's not a ton else.
Honestly, I don't, because
Did
a
you?
lot of the other stuff was like, well, go ahead.
Apparently, he's in Billy Elliot a little bit, or in some way. So
A little,
I
a
mentioned
little
that.
bit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I've never seen it, but I know he is, Billy Elliot.
And then
Does he do a
Spies
good job?
in Spies in Disguise is a movie that I actually think it's not a great movie, but it made me laugh a lot. So take that for what it's worth.
I don't think I've heard of it. Spies in Disguise. Oh,
It's
wait,
the
was that the one with him and Will Smith where he's the pigeon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's funny.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it's pretty funny.
Okay.
All right, let's finish it out, man. What do you got for your buried treasure?
There's a show that you and we kind of like hinted at talking about once, but I don't think that we ever really recommended it. So I'm gonna go ahead and recommend it now because I finally got caught up on it, and that's Yellowstone on
Oh yeah,
the Paramount
tell me about
Network.
Yellowstone.
The last time we talked about it, you were thinking about picking it up, so I'm taking
I still
it
haven't.
that you haven't yet. Okay.
Yeah.
The first season is really good. The second season is crazy, and the third season is really good too. I think that this is if you like Taylor Sheridan, which Hell or High Water or Mystic River or he wrote Sicario, and I think he was a big.
I forget
part
his
in
name, but I
these-
know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor Sheridan.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's him. He made this show. And if you like that style of him like storytelling, then you're going to love this. I think that Kevin Costner is brilliant. Imagine if like cattle ranching was run like the mafia.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's an interesting take. Like I don't. Now that I say that and I put that in my head, I'm like, oh wait, maybe Aaron wouldn't like this because it's not. These aren't characters you're supposed to root for. You're seeing how much they can try and get away with before they get their shortcoming, and that's mainly what it is. But they're not the only story within this series, which I think is good because it does give you people to root for. There's families that live on an Indian reservation, or there's people who are moving into Bozeman, Montana, and they have big plans and how they think that they could make the place better. But it's this family, these cattle ranchers who own thousands of acres of like beautiful like landscape, like photographic, like Photoshop landscapes they own,
Mm-hmm.
and they was like, no, we're just gonna keep it the way we like it, and it's the way it is. So
Nice.
it's a interesting dynamic between the cattle ranchers, the Native Americans, and the I guess you could say the new industry moving into Montana.
Okay.
It's a fun show, very well acted.
Very nice. I will say for the video, those watching on the video, the poster that we put up for Yellowstone was very clearly not for the TV show.
Oh, I didn't even see it. What was it?
No, it looked like some maybe like documentary on the park or something.
Yep,
But
that's not it. That's all
yeah,
right though.
so yeah, just wanted to make sure you knew that. My buried treasure is a YouTube channel called Oddly Satisfying. It's funny. It's funny to talk about this on the heels of not social network, but the social dilemma, because a lot of what that's about is how algorithms will feed you recommendations and those kind of things. And I went down an oddly satisfying rabbit hole that the people in my phone were so happy with me for continuing to watch those videos. But there's just something. What would you say? Oddly satisfying about watching people cut into Play-Doh or press things into shapes or whatever. I mean, there's just so many different things, and like each one comes up, and you're like, yeah, that's cool and oddly satisfying. So, kudos to whoever took that and decided to make some money off of it, because you had my views for a long while. And if you haven't checked out some of those videos, check one of them out. It's just, I don't know. A lot of that stuff I just find so cool. I'm just like, wow, I love that. That's interesting. So anyhow, it's not a movie, it's not a TV show, but it is something that I enjoyed for a while. So I thought I'd pass it along in case you might enjoy it as well. So
yeah, let that algorithm know which videos you like.
That's right. That's right. Well, we did it, man. We managed through all sorts of technological shenanigans to do a podcast. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us today for SiftPop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about the other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out with us today. Andrew, always good to have you on.
Thank you, buddy.
Huge thanks to producer Phil for producing the show.
Thanks, Phil.
And much love and gratitude to our SiftPop members for giving monthly to make SiftPop a real thing. Support starts at $3 a month. Comes with some pretty fun perks, so you can check that out at patreon.com/SiftPop. Lots of ways to connect with us. You can email us, feedback@siftpop.com. You can comment, rate, or leave a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the podcast. And if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too, so make sure you let them know about it, and that listening is much easier than battling a million rats for all of eternity, or watching Devil All the Time again. All right, we'll be back next week with some more stuff, hopefully with the technical details all sorted out, and we will see you then.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.